Zola woke up that morning feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. The sunlight streamed through her small bedroom window, painting the walls in warm shades of gold. She could hear the sounds of the town beginning to stir outside, vendors calling from the market, the soft clatter of pots and pans from neighboring houses, and children laughing as they ran along the dusty streets. Everything seemed ordinary, quiet, and safe, yet inside her, there was a storm of emotions. Today was different. Today she had made a decision she could not turn back from. Her thoughts kept returning to Keen. She loved him with all her heart, and he had been her support, her laughter, and her comfort for months. Their relationship had grown quickly, and Zola felt as if every moment with him mattered deeply. But this morning she wanted to do something bold, something that would show just how much she cared. It was an impulsive thought, she knew that, but the excitement in her chest was too strong to ignore. She paced back and forth in her room, her bare feet tapping lightly against the wooden floor. She looked at herself in the mirror, brushing her hair slowly, thinking about how much she wanted to make her feelings visible, permanent. She imagined Keen's smile when he saw her, imagined the awe and surprise in his eyes. The idea had begun as a playful thought, but now it had grown into determination. She wanted to tattoo his name on her face. Just the name, simple, bold, and unforgettable. Her heart raced as she got dressed in her favorite outfit, a bright blue dress that made her feel confident and alive. She paused for a moment, looking at herself in the mirror again. Could she really do this? It would be permanent and everyone would see it. Some people might judge her, others might laugh. But Zola did not care about anyone's opinion. She wanted to show Keen how much he meant to her, and no one could stop her from doing that. She left her small house, feeling the warm morning sun on her skin. The streets of the town were coming alive now. Vendors were setting up their stalls, the smell of fresh bread and roasted peanuts filling the air. Children ran past her, kicking up dust, and women carried baskets of vegetables on their heads. Zola smiled at the familiarity of it all, but her mind was elsewhere. She was focused on the small tattoo shop at the corner, the place where she had made an appointment the night before. The shop was quiet when she entered, filled with the faint smell of ink and antiseptic. The walls were decorated with drawings of different tattoo designs, from small symbols to large intricate patterns. The tattoo artist, a calm and professional woman named Saad, greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Zola. Ready for today?" she asked, her voice gentle. Zola nodded, trying to steady her trembling hands. "Yes," she said softly. "I'm ready." Saad guided her to a small chair and explained the process again, showing her the design she had requested. It was simple, just Keen's name in neat, flowing letters along her right cheek. The simplicity was exactly what Zola wanted. It was personal, daring, and visible for everyone to see. As Saad prepared the equipment, Zola's mind wandered. She thought about Keen, about how their first meeting had been, about their first date under the shade of the big mango tree near the river. She remembered the way he laughed, the way he listened, and the warmth in his eyes that made her feel safe and loved. Every memory made her heart beat faster. She was doing this for him, for their love, for the way he made her feel alive. The first touch of the needle against her skin made Zola flinch. She gripped the sides of the chair tightly, closing her eyes as a sharp, stinging sensation spread across her cheek. It was painful but not unbearable. With each line of ink, her heart raced with anticipation. She imagined Keen's reaction, imagined the story they would tell their friends one day. Saad spoke softly as she worked. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Zola opened her eyes and smiled through the sting. "Excited," she said. "Nervous too. But mostly, excited." Time seemed to slow as the tattoo took shape. The hum of the tattoo machine filled the small shop, blending with the soft music playing in the background. Zola tried to focus on her breathing, on the feeling of the sun outside, on the rhythm of her heartbeat. Each passing minute brought her closer to the moment she had imagined so vividly for weeks. When Saad finally wiped the last line of ink and held up a small mirror, Zola froze. Her eyes widened as she saw her reflection. There it was, Keen's name clear and bold on her cheek. Her breath caught in her throat. It was real, permanent, visible to the world. She touched her face gently, half expecting it to disappear. But it did not. It was there, exactly as she had imagined, a symbol of her feelings and her daring. Tears pricked her eyes, not from pain, but from emotion. She felt a surge of pride and love, a sense of empowerment that was new and thrilling. She had taken a risk, followed her heart, and created something that would always remind her, and everyone else, of the depth of her feelings. Saad cleaned the area carefully and gave Zola instructions for care. Keep it clean, avoid the sun for a few days and it will heal nicely, she said. Zola nodded, still staring at her reflection. She could hardly believe she had done it. As she left the tattoo shop, the sunlight seemed brighter, the colors of the town more vivid. She walked slowly, savoring the moment, noticing the laughter of children and the smells of cooking from the nearby houses. Everything seemed sharper, more alive. She felt bold, confident, and a little fearless. People on the street noticed her, of course. Some stared, some whispered, some smiled. Zola held her head high, feeling a strange mix of pride and defiance. This tattoo was hers, a personal statement of love and courage. She knew that reactions might vary, that some would not understand, but she did not care. Her heart was full, and that was all that mattered. Her mind kept returning to Keen. She imagined seeing him today, showing him the tattoo for the first time. Would he be surprised? Amused? Overwhelmed? She did not know, but she could not wait to see his reaction. The thought made her cheeks flush with anticipation even without the tattoo. By the time she reached her small home, the sun was higher in the sky. She sat by the window, looking out at the town she had always known, feeling as if she were seeing it anew. The ordinary streets, the familiar houses, the small market. Everything seemed different because of the change she had made within herself. She had made a permanent mark, not just on her skin but on her life. Hours passed as she rehearsed how she would tell Keen. Should she surprise him at the market? Or wait until he came to her house? Each scenario played out in her mind, making her pulse quicken. She laughed softly at her own excitement, feeling giddy with the thought of revealing her bold act of love. Evening came and Zola prepared herself to go out. She dressed simply, wanting Keen to see her face clearly, to notice the tattoo immediately. Her reflection in the mirror caught her eye again. She touched her cheek lightly, still amazed at what she had done. The ink was a symbol of her feelings, a permanent mark of love, courage, and impulsiveness. As she stepped outside into the evening air, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple, she felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Each step toward the market, each glance at passing faces, reminded her that the world now knew something very personal about her. And soon Keen would know too. Zola's heart beat faster with every step. She could hardly wait to see his reaction. The day had been long, the process painful and thrilling, but now, as she walked under the soft glow of lanterns lighting the streets, she felt alive. She had made a bold decision and there was no turning back. Her excitement mixed with a strange tension. She was proud of what she had done, but she could not predict Keen's response. Would he understand? Would he be impressed or shocked? The uncertainty made her stomach flutter with nerves. But Zola had learned to embrace her feelings, her courage, and her impulsiveness. She had acted from her heart and that was enough for now. As she approached the small bridge near the river, she paused to look at her reflection in the water. There it was, Keen's name, clear and bold on her cheek, shimmering slightly in the water's surface. Zola smiled softly, feeling a deep connection to her own bravery. She had done something extraordinary, a story that would stay with her forever. With a deep breath, she continued toward the market, her head held high. The world was watching, but she felt ready. Ready for reactions, ready for emotions, ready for whatever came next. The tattoo was done, and with it, a chapter of her life had begun. One that would be filled with excitement, uncertainty, and love. Zola knew that this day would be remembered not just by her but by Keen, the people around her, and by herself forever. She had acted on impulse, but it was an impulse born of love, passion, and courage. And as the evening shadows stretched across the streets of her town, she felt alive in a way she had never felt before. The morning sun filtered gently through Zola's window as she awoke, a mixture of excitement and nervous energy filling her chest. She touched her cheek lightly, feeling the smooth raised ink where Keen's name had been tattooed just the day before. The memory of the tattoo shop, the sting of the needle, and the thrill of the moment all came rushing back. She smiled to herself, remembering the way she had imagined Keen's face when he saw it for the first time. Zola dressed carefully, choosing a bright yellow dress that made her feel confident. She wanted the tattoo to be seen clearly, to be bold and undeniable, yet she also wanted to feel comfortable as she went about her day. She brushed her hair and looked at herself in the mirror, noticing how the sunlight reflected slightly off the ink. It was permanent now, a symbol of her feelings, and she felt proud and daring. When she stepped outside, the streets of her small town were already bustling. Women carried baskets on their heads, children laughed as they ran toward school, and merchants began arranging their goods for the day. The familiar rhythm of life gave Zola a sense of comfort, but she also felt an intense awareness of every face she passed, every glance cast her way. Today she knew the tattoo would attract attention and she wanted to see their reactions. Her friends were waiting for her near the market square. Amina, Lady, and Bola were chatting quietly, their baskets filled with vegetables and fruits. As soon as they saw Zola approaching, they stopped and stared. Zola smiled brightly, lifting her face slightly to draw attention to the tattoo. "Wow," said Amina, her eyes wide. "Zola, is that?" Zola laughed softly, touching her cheek. "Yes, I did it. Keen's name," she said proudly. "I wanted him to know how much he means to me." Lady's mouth fell open slightly. "On your face?" she whispered. "That's bold, Zola. Very bold." Bola, who was usually quiet, gave a small smile. "I like it. It's different." "You really mean it, don't you?" Zola nodded eagerly. "I do. I love him so much. I had to show him in a way no one can miss." Her friends walked with her through the streets, and already the whispers began. Passers-by turned their heads, some with surprise, some with curiosity. Zola felt every glance like a ripple through her chest. Some made her proud, others made her cheeks flush with nervousness. She realized that her small act of love had become a spectacle, even if unintentionally. They reached the small cafe near the market where Zola often met Keen, and she ordered a cup of tea while her friends chatted. She felt a mixture of pride and anxiety. She had expected reactions, but seeing people stare and whisper still made her heart race. She noticed the way some merchants paused mid-motion to glance at her, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and astonishment. Some of the younger children even pointed, tugging at their mother's hands to look at her face. Zola sipped her tea slowly, trying to steady herself. She thought about Keen constantly. Today was the day she would see his reaction. She imagined him laughing, smiling, maybe even teasing her for her boldness. But a small voice of doubt whispered in the back of her mind. What if he didn't like it? What if he was confused or even upset? She shook her head, trying to push the worry away. She had done this for love, and love was worth a little nervousness. Her friends tried to reassure her. "People will talk," Amina said, "but that doesn't matter. You're brave, Zola." "I mean it. Most people wouldn't dare." Bola nodded. "And if Keen really cares for you, he'll understand. Maybe he'll even admire your courage." Zola smiled at them, feeling her confidence return. Their support made her feel stronger, as if she could face every judgmental glance or whispered comment without faltering. She adjusted her posture, held her head high, and continued walking through the town. The whispers and stares still came, but she paid them little mind. Today was about her feelings, her choices, and her love for Keen. As she passed the small square near the market fountain, she noticed a group of young women sitting on a bench. They whispered among themselves, their eyes fixed on her tattoo. Zola's stomach tightened, but she reminded herself that they could not take away what she had done. She walked confidently past them, offering a small smile. Some smiled back, some glanced away quickly. She realized that attention was inevitable, but the important thing was how she carried herself. The path to the market was crowded, and Zola noticed every reaction. A man carrying a basket of tomatoes glanced at her twice, then muttered something under his breath. A group of children ran past, pointing at her cheek, and she felt the warmth of embarrassment mixed with pride. Each reaction reminded her that her tattoo was bold, visible, and permanent. She had wanted this, to show her love and her daring spirit, and now the world could see it. As she walked, her mind wandered to Keen again. Would he notice the reactions of others? Would he laugh, be proud, or feel overwhelmed? She imagined him walking toward her, seeing her for the first time after the tattoo, and the thrill made her heart race. She wanted him to feel the intensity of her love, the courage she had shown, and the sincerity behind her impulsive decision. Zola and her friends reached the small marketplace, where Keen often helped his uncle at a vegetable stall. She paused at the edge of the stall, peering through the crowd for any sign of him. Her pulse quickened when she saw him talking with customers, arranging tomatoes and peppers. He looked as ordinary as always, calm and focused, completely unaware of the surprise that awaited him. Her friends nudged her gently. "Go on," Amina whispered. "It's your moment. Show him." Zola took a deep breath and stepped forward. Her chest was tight, her hands trembling slightly as she approached. Every step seemed slow, measured, and deliberate. She could hear the faint hum of conversations around her, the soft clatter of crates, and the distant laughter of children. Yet in her mind, everything else faded except Keen. When he noticed her, his eyes lifted, and for a moment he seemed puzzled. Zola's heart jumped. She stepped closer, her face glowing with anticipation, and lifted her hand to her cheek slightly, drawing his attention. "Keen," she said softly, Look. His gaze followed her hand and his eyes widened slightly. The name on her cheek, the very name of the boy he loved, was permanent, visible and bold. He blinked, looking from the tattoo to her face, unsure how to respond. Zola held her breath, feeling a mix of pride, anxiety, and excitement. Keen smiled faintly, a small nervous laugh escaping him. Zola, this is, wow, he said carefully. I didn't expect this. Her chest lifted with relief, but a small wave of nervousness returned. She wanted his reaction to be more animated, more joyful. Yet even his quiet surprise told her that he cared, even if he was unsure how to respond. Her friends watched from a distance, smiling and nudging each other. They whispered about how brave Zola had been, how the boldness of her tattoo had captured everyone's attention, and how Keen's reaction was priceless. Zola felt a mixture of pride and embarrassment. She had wanted to make a statement and now she had, whether he fully understood it yet or not. As Keen stepped closer, he reached out and gently touched her arm. I see it, he said softly. It's bold, Zola. Very bold. I like it, but I need a moment to take it all in. Zola nodded, her pulse still racing. She understood. It was a lot to process. She had acted impulsively, yes, but she had done it with love, with intention, and with courage. She wanted him to know that. The crowd around the market continued its rhythm. Vendors calling, children laughing, merchants arranging their goods. But for Zola and Keen, the moment felt suspended. She could see the mix of emotions on his face. Surprise, admiration, and perhaps a little confusion. She smiled softly, realizing that reactions could vary, but what mattered most was that she had shown her feelings. By the end of the morning, Zola felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride, nervousness, excitement, and anticipation. The tattoo had drawn attention, sparked conversations, and forced her to face the reactions of the world. Yet through it all, she felt stronger, braver, and more aware of the impact of her impulsive decision. As she walked home with her friends, they laughed and teased gently, but Zola didn't mind. She had done something bold, permanent, and daring, something that expressed her love and her spirit. She touched her cheek lightly again, feeling the raised ink beneath her fingers, and smiled. The reactions of others mattered, but what truly mattered was the love and courage that had motivated her. And as she looked forward to the next time she would see Keen, she felt a thrill of anticipation, ready to face whatever came next with the same boldness that had led her to tattoo his name on her face. Zola had been waiting for this moment all morning, the excitement building like a storm inside her chest. She had imagined Keen's reaction 100 times, his eyes lighting up, his laughter filling the air, perhaps even a playful tease about her daring choice. She felt a thrill thinking about it as she walked toward the small park where they had agreed to meet. The sun was bright, warming her skin, and a soft breeze carried the scent of flowers from the nearby gardens. Everything seemed ordinary, but Zola's heart knew this moment was far from ordinary. As she approached the bench where Keen usually sat, she caught sight of him arranging some papers for a small school project he was tutoring. He looked up just as she arrived, and the first glimpse of him made her smile wider. She raised her hand slightly and tilted her head, drawing attention to her cheek. The tattoo gleamed slightly in the sunlight, and Zola's chest swelled with pride and anticipation. Keen, she called, her voice light and excited. Look at this. He looked up quickly, his eyes scanning her face. For a moment there was a flicker of confusion, then surprise. His expression changed so quickly that Zola could hardly keep up. He froze in place, his body stiff, and his lips parted slightly as if searching for words. Her heart skipped a beat. This was not the reaction she had expected. It's really something, he said slowly, his voice careful, almost hesitant. He moved his hand slightly toward his face, as if to shield himself from what he was seeing. Wow. I didn't expect this. Zola's heart sank slightly. She had imagined admiration, laughter, maybe even a playful joke. But hesitation? Surprise so strong it left him momentarily speechless? She felt a strange wave of embarrassment mixed with the pride she had carried all morning. She pointed to her cheek with a small, nervous laugh. It's my way of showing you how much I love you, she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. I wanted you to know. Everyone will see it. I wanted you to feel my love. Keen blinked a few times, taking a step back as if the weight of the moment had caught him off guard. He scratched the back of his neck nervously and looked around the park, perhaps hoping no one else was watching them. The other people around, parents with children, friends walking dogs, a couple sitting under a tree, seemed to fade into the background. All he could see was the bold, permanent ink on her face. I didn't know what to expect, he admitted finally. It's very bold, Zola. I mean, I'm surprised. Really surprised. Zola felt her chest tighten. Surprise was one thing, hesitation another. She had acted out of love and courage, and now she worried that Keen might misunderstand her intentions. What if he thought she had gone too far? What if he didn't feel the same way she did? The thought made a small pang of fear run through her stomach. I just wanted to show you, she said quickly, almost defensively. I didn't mean to make you feel awkward or anything. I just love you so much, Keen. I wanted you to know. Keen looked at her carefully, studying her face, the tattoo, and her expression. He wanted to say something, anything that would convey his feelings, but he found himself momentarily lost in thought. He cared deeply for Zola, more than he had ever admitted aloud, but this was unexpected. A tattoo on the face was not something he had anticipated, not in 1,000 different scenarios he had imagined about their love. I know, he said finally, his voice soft. I know you love me. And I care about you too, Zola. I really do. Zola felt a small relief wash over her, but it was tinged with doubt. His words were gentle, but the hesitation in his eyes made her wonder if he truly understood the depth of her feelings. She wanted to laugh, to cry, to run, and to stay all at once. Her emotions swirled in a confusing storm. Keen took a careful step closer, his hands slightly raised in a gesture meant to calm both of them. I just need a moment, he said. It's a lot to take in. You did something very bold, Zola. I admire your courage, but I didn't see this coming at all. Zola nodded, her fingers brushing lightly against her cheek where the tattoo glimmered in the sunlight. I know it's sudden, she admitted. I didn't think about how you'd react. I just knew I wanted to do it. I love you and I wanted to show it in a way that's permanent. Keen sighed softly, his expression a mixture of admiration and uncertainty. He had always appreciated Zola's impulsive nature, her ability to act boldly and passionately. It was one of the things he loved about her. But this was different. It was permanent, public, and unmistakable. He knew it would be noticed, talked about, and remembered by everyone who saw her. You're brave, he said slowly. I mean that. I've never met anyone who would do something like this. Impressive. But it's also overwhelming. Zola felt her heart sink slightly at the word overwhelming. She had hoped he would feel pride, excitement, maybe even a little playful shock. But overwhelming? Did that mean he was unhappy? She wanted to explain herself, to tell him that every line of ink was filled with love and intention, but her words faltered in the moment. Seeing her hesitation, Keen softened his expression. Zola, I didn't mean to upset you, he said gently. I'm just processing this. I love that you care about me so much. I love that you're bold and passionate. But I wasn't ready for this kind of display. It's a lot for me. Zola took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She understood. Her impulsive act had surprised him, and while it was meant to show love, it also forced him to face something sudden, unexpected, and public. She reminded herself that love was not only about bold gestures. It was also about understanding and timing. I didn't mean to surprise you too much, she said softly. I just wanted you to know in a way that's unforgettable. Keen smiled faintly, a mixture of affection and slight amusement on his face. Unforgettable, yes, he said. I will never forget this, Zola. You've made that very clear. Despite his words, Zola felt a flutter of nervousness. She had acted on impulse, driven by emotion, and now she was waiting for his full reaction. Would he be upset later? Would he feel embarrassed in front of others? The uncertainty made her stomach twist, but she tried to remind herself of his kindness, his care, and the way he always treated her with respect and affection. They sat together on the park bench, the afternoon sun warming their skin. Keen reached out and took her hand gently. Zola, he said softly, I know this is your way of showing love and I appreciate it. Truly. But maybe next time, we can talk about it first. Zola laughed softly, the tension in her chest easing slightly. Next time? You think there will be a next time? Keen smiled, squeezing her hand. Maybe. But I appreciate your honesty now and I care about you more than anything. This tattoo, it's bold, unforgettable, and very you. And I like that about you even if I'm surprised. Zola felt her heart lift. The initial shock, the embarrassment, and the nervous doubt began to fade. She realized that Keen's hesitation was not a rejection, but a moment of adjustment. He cared for her deeply, and now he was processing the boldness of her love. She leaned back slightly, touching her cheek lightly, and smiled. I just wanted to make sure you knew, she said softly. I do know, Keen replied, his voice calm and warm. I know and I appreciate it. I admire you for your courage. It's not easy to do something like this. For the first time since she had walked up to him, Zola felt a sense of relief. The awkwardness was still there, but it was mixed with understanding, affection, and a new level of closeness. She realized that love could be bold, impulsive, and daring, but it also needed patience, communication, and care. The park around them continued its quiet rhythm. Children laughed in the distance, birds sang softly, and a light breeze rustled the leaves of the trees. Zola felt the tension in her chest slowly unwind. She had taken a risk, shown her love, and faced Keen's honest reaction. And even though it had been unexpected, she knew that their bond had grown stronger because of it. As they walked slowly back through the streets, Zola held her head high, feeling proud of her choice and hopeful for what lay ahead. She had acted from the heart, faced the uncertainty of another's reaction, and come through with a mixture of pride, humility, and love. She knew that the next steps would require patience and understanding, but she was ready. The unexpected twist had tested her emotions, but it had also reminded her of the depth of her feelings and the importance of sharing them honestly. Zola smiled softly, glancing at Keen, and realized that love was a journey, sometimes surprising, sometimes challenging, and always worth embracing fully. Zola had spent the entire morning replaying the moment she had revealed her tattoo to Keen. Even after their initial conversation, the memory of his hesitant expression and careful words lingered in her mind. She had expected a clear reaction, admiration, excitement, or perhaps playful teasing, but instead there had been hesitation. That pause had gnawed at her all morning, leaving her heart fluttering with a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. She knew she needed clarity, and she had asked Keen to meet her again in the quiet garden near the river, a place where they often shared their most personal conversations. When she arrived, the sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting soft amber and gold light across the small park. The gentle breeze stirred the leaves on the trees, and the faint sounds of the river flowing nearby added a calm rhythm to the scene. Keen was already there, seated on the edge of the small stone fountain. His expression was serious, but the warmth in his eyes told Zola that he cared. "Zola," he said gently, standing as she approached. "Thank you for meeting me here." She smiled softly, though her heart was still tight with anticipation. "Of course, Keen. I wanted to understand how you really feel." He nodded, taking a deep breath as if gathering his thoughts carefully. "I care about you deeply, Zola," he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "I love you. I've always cared for you in ways I haven't always said out loud. You mean a lot to me." Zola felt her chest tighten, a rush of warmth spreading through her. She wanted to reach for him, to take his hands in hers, but she stayed still, waiting for him to continue. "I need to be honest," Keen continued. "I had never imagined anyone would show love so boldly. Not like this. I mean, this tattoo on your face, it's overwhelming." Zola's stomach twisted slightly. Overwhelming. It wasn't rejection, but it wasn't the excitement she had expected either. Her heart sank a little and she looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously. I didn't mean to overwhelm you," she whispered. I wanted you to know how much I love you. I thought, maybe this would show you in a way words can't." Keen stepped closer, reaching out to gently touch her shoulder. His hand was warm, reassuring, and firm. "I know, Zola," he said softly. "I understand that. And I see it, I feel it. You love me and your love is clear. But I want you to understand something too. Love doesn't always need to be bold to be true. Sometimes the quiet gestures, the ones that don't demand attention, can matter just as much." Zola lifted her eyes, meeting his gaze. She saw sincerity, affection, and a hint of concern. Relief washed over her slightly, mixed with embarrassment for having acted so impulsively. I thought being bold would make it obvious," she admitted. "I didn't think about how it might feel for you." Keen nodded. "I know and I appreciate it, truly. But the thing is, I had been planning something special for you. Something thoughtful, something I wanted to do for us. I didn't want you to act impulsively before that. I wanted it to be a shared moment, a memory we could both hold." Zola's eyes widened. She hadn't known. All her anxiety, all her doubts, had been focused on what Keen would think about her tattoo. She hadn't imagined he might have been planning a surprise of his own. Her heart swelled with relief and understanding, mixed with a small pang of guilt for having acted so hastily. I didn't know," she said softly. I wanted you to know how I feel. I thought this was the only way." Keen smiled gently, reaching for her hand and holding it firmly in his own. I know, Zola. And your love is genuine, I can feel it. But sometimes patience is just as important as courage. Your actions were heartfelt, yes, but hasty. That doesn't make them wrong, it just changes how I process them. Zola felt the weight of his words but also their tenderness. She realized that love was not just about grand gestures or bold displays. It was about understanding, timing, and the shared experience between two people. She squeezed his hand lightly, feeling a mix of pride, relief, and humility. I see now, she said softly. I understand, Keen. I acted impulsively. But I meant every bit of it. Keen nodded, his expression softening further. I know you did. And that's why I care for you even more. You're brave, passionate, and honest about your feelings. That's rare, Zola. But I also want us to learn from these moments, so we can grow together, not just individually. Zola smiled, feeling tears prick her eyes. She had expected reprimand, judgment, or even disappointment, but instead she felt understanding, patience, and love. Relief and warmth spread through her chest. Her impulsive act had been genuine, heartfelt, and daring, but Keen's words reminded her that love could also be gentle, patient, and thoughtful. They sat together on the edge of the fountain, holding hands in silence for a moment. The sound of water flowing over the stones and the gentle rustle of the leaves created a calm backdrop. Zola felt a deep sense of clarity. The bold tattoo on her face was a symbol of her feelings, yes, but it was also a reminder that love required communication, understanding, and timing. Keen continued, his voice soft and steady. I don't want you to feel like I don't appreciate your love. I do. I see it every day. But sometimes, it's the small, quiet moments that show love most clearly. I've been planning something, yes, but now, seeing your courage, your honesty, it makes me want to include you even more in the things I plan for us. To make sure our love is shared, not just displayed. Zola felt her chest fill with warmth. She leaned slightly toward him, resting her head near his shoulder. I understand, she whispered. I acted from my heart, but I see now that I could have waited, talked, and shared the experience more with you. Keen smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Exactly. Love is about sharing, Zola. About understanding each other. You've shown me how deeply you care, and I've learned to appreciate that courage. And together, we'll figure out how to combine that courage with patience and thoughtfulness. For the first time that day, Zola felt completely at peace. The anxiety, the doubt, and the embarrassment all began to fade. She realized that her impulsive tattoo, while bold and permanent, had led to a moment of honesty, communication, and deeper understanding between her and Keen. It was a lesson in love, courage, and the importance of patience. They sat together as the sun dipped lower in the sky, the warm light reflecting off the water and casting a gentle glow over their faces. Zola touched her cheek lightly, feeling the raised ink beneath her fingers, and smiled. It was a reminder of her passion, yes, but also a symbol of a lesson learned. Love was not only about bold gestures, it was about timing, understanding, and shared experiences. I'm glad we talked, Zola said softly, her voice filled with sincerity. I feel lighter now. I understand you better. And I hope you understand me too. Keen nodded, his eyes warm and steady. I do, Zola. I understand you completely. Your love is real and your courage is remarkable. And now, I want to make sure we both experience our love fully together. Zola felt her heart swell with relief and happiness. The awkwardness of the moment had transformed into connection, understanding, and a stronger bond. Zola walked slowly through the familiar streets of her town, the soft sunlight warming her face and highlighting the tattoo that still rested boldly on her cheek. She touched it lightly as she walked, feeling the smooth ink beneath her fingers, and a small smile spread across her face. The past few days had been a whirlwind of emotion, excitement, pride, nervousness, and even embarrassment, but now, as she reflected on everything, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't expected. She remembered the moment she had first walked into the tattoo shop, her heart pounding with anticipation, and the sting of the needle as the artist had carefully etched Keen's name onto her skin. At the time, it had seemed like the perfect way to show her love, bold, permanent, undeniable. But she had learned quickly that boldness alone was not the same as understanding. Her laughter bubbled up quietly as she remembered Keen's initial reaction. The hesitation, the surprise, the careful words, it had all seemed so serious and so overwhelming at the moment. But now, looking back, she could see it with a sense of humor and warmth. She had acted impulsively, yes, but she had acted with love. And love, she realized, sometimes required mistakes, learning, and growth. Zola turned a corner and saw the small market square bustling with life. Vendors called to customers, children ran through the narrow streets, and neighbors greeted each other warmly. Everything felt ordinary, yet she felt extraordinary. She had faced a personal challenge, acted on her heart, and navigated the unexpected reactions of someone she deeply cared for. The ordinary streets now seemed brighter, filled with stories, life, and moments of connection. As she approached the small cafe where she and Keen often met, she spotted him already waiting, seated at a corner table. His expression was calm, welcoming, and familiar, and the sight of him made her heart lift. She walked up to him, feeling a mixture of excitement and relief. The tattoo on her cheek was no longer a source of anxiety but a symbol of the journey they had shared and the understanding they had reached together. "Keen," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from him. "I've been thinking, and I realized something." He looked up from his cup of tea, his eyes warm. "Oh?" he said, raising an eyebrow slightly. "And what's that?" Zola smiled, a small laugh escaping her lips. "I forgive myself," she said. "I acted impulsively, yes, but I did it from my heart. And now I see that love is more than bold gestures. It's about patience, understanding, and communication. I laughed at myself this morning thinking about how dramatic it all was. And I think, I want to keep the tattoo." Keen blinked, then smiled softly. "Keep it?" he asked, his voice gentle but curious. "Yes," Zola replied, her eyes meeting his. "It's a memory of how deeply I felt. A reminder of my passion, my courage, and even my mistakes. I want it to stay, not as something to show off, but as a lesson and a story we'll tell together someday." Keen's expression softened, and he reached across the table to take her hand in his. "Zola, I think that's perfect," he said sincerely. "I promise to be more open, to communicate more, and to make sure we share our feelings before big gestures like this. I don't want you to feel like you need to act alone to show love. We're a team and I want us to grow together." Zola felt a warm wave of relief and happiness wash over her. His words were comforting, reassuring, and filled with love. She squeezed his hand lightly, grateful for his patience and understanding. She realized that love wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about learning together, supporting each other, and growing as partners. The cafe around them continued its quiet rhythm. The clatter of cups, the soft conversations of other customers, and the distant calls of the market created a comforting background. Zola felt grounded, aware of the present moment, and grateful for the clarity that had emerged from the whirlwind of the past few days. After a while, Keen stood and held out his hand to her. "Come on," he said with a small smile. "Let's take a walk. I want to show you something." Zola took his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm and the steady beat of his heart through their clasped hands. They walked slowly through the town, past familiar shops, and along the narrow streets lined with flowering trees. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows and bathing the town in golden light. As they reached the small bridge overlooking the river, Keen stopped and turned to her. "Zola, I've been thinking a lot about us," he said softly. "Your courage, your honesty, your love, it's all remarkable. I want to make sure we build something strong together. Something that lasts, that grows, and that honors the feelings we have for each other." Zola felt her heart swell with emotion. The anxiety, the hesitation, and the nervous moments of the past days seemed distant now, replaced by understanding, love, and hope. "I want that too, Keen," she said, her voice soft. "I want us to be strong together, to understand each other, and to grow in love and trust." He smiled and pulled her into a gentle hug. She rested her head against his shoulder, feeling safe, cherished, and understood. The bold tattoo on her cheek was no longer a source of fear or doubt. It was a symbol of the journey they had shared. It reminded her of passion, impulsiveness, mistakes, learning, and ultimately, growth. As they stood on the bridge, the river reflecting the golden light of the sunset, Zola realized how much she had grown. She felt stronger, wiser, and more aware of the balance between emotion and thought. She had acted from her heart, but now she knew that love required patience, understanding, and communication. Keen pulled back slightly, looking at her face, and smiled. "You know," he said gently, "that tattoo is going to be a story we'll tell for years. A reminder of your courage, your love, and even your impulsiveness. But more importantly, it's a reminder that we can face surprises, mistakes, and unexpected moments together." Zola laughed softly, a sound of pure relief and happiness. "Yes," she said. "And every time I look at it, I'll remember that love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about understanding, patience, and sharing our hearts openly." They walked slowly back toward the center of town, hand in hand, the fading light casting long, soft shadows around them. Each step felt lighter, freer, and more full of hope than before. Zola felt a deep sense of contentment. She had taken a risk, faced the unexpected, and emerged with a stronger bond, deeper understanding and clearer perspective on love. Along the way they passed familiar faces, neighbors, friends and merchants, who noticed the tattoo and the way Zola carried herself. Some smiled, some whispered, but Zola no longer felt nervous. She held her head high, not for attention, but because she had faced her feelings, expressed them boldly, and now walked with pride, love and understanding. By the time they reached the small garden where their favorite bench waited, the sky had turned shades of purple and pink. Zola sat down, her hand still holding Keen's, and looked out over the flowers swaying gently in the evening breeze. She felt the peace of the moment settle deeply in her heart. "I'm glad we had this conversation," she said softly. "I feel lighter, happier, and ready to continue our story together." Keen nodded, brushing a small strand of hair from her face. "Me too, Zola. This has been a lesson for both of us, about love, courage, patience and honesty. I want us to keep learning together and to share every moment fully without fear." Zola smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She had acted from her heart, faced the unexpected, learned a valuable lesson and found clarity in her relationship. The tattoo on her cheek was no longer just an impulsive act. It was a symbol of growth, understanding and the love she shared with Keen. As the evening deepened and the first stars began to appear in the sky, Zola laughed softly at the memory of her boldness. She could see the humor, the passion and even the mistakes in her actions and she embraced them all. Love, she realized, was not perfect. It was messy, bold, gentle, impulsive and patient all at once. And in that mixture there was beauty, growth and deep connection. Keen leaned back on the bench beside her, smiling at the sky. "I think this will be a story we tell often," he said softly. "The day you tattooed my name on your face. Bold, brave, unforgettable. And the lessons we learned because of it." Zola laughed again, resting her head on his shoulder. "Yes," she said. "And every time I look at it I'll remember how far we've come. How love can teach patience, understanding and strength." The evening grew quiet around them, the town settling into its nightly rhythm. But Zola and Keen remained together on the bench, hands entwined, hearts connected and minds full of hope. The tattoo, the impulsive act, and the revelations that followed had all led them to this moment. A moment of peace, love, and understanding. Zola touched her cheek lightly one last time, smiling at the tattoo and at the journey it represented. She felt stronger, wiser, and more aware of the balance between emotion and thought. The tattoo was a story, a lesson, and a memory. And most importantly, it was a symbol of love that had grown deeper, stronger, and more meaningful because of patience, honesty, and shared understanding. As they walked back toward their small home, hand in hand, Zola felt a quiet joy in her chest. The bold ink on her face glimmered softly in the light of the street lamps, a permanent reminder of her courage and the lessons learned. Their bond had grown deeper, their hearts were aligned, and the story of the tattoo had become one they would tell together, always with a smile, always with warmth. In that small, ordinary town, on a quiet evening filled with love, reflection, and learning, Zola realized something important. Love was never just about bold gestures or impulsive acts. It was about understanding, forgiveness, patience, and growth. And in embracing all of that, she felt truly alive, fully loved, and ready to face every moment of life in love with courage and wisdom.